All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining. I'm going to pull this up here. A couple of quick notes before we get started. Um, Thank you all for participating in soccer this fall with the YMCA of Columbia. My name is Jack Miller, and I'm the Senior Director for Sports at the Jeep Riders YMCA, and formerly was the sports director out at Owens Field. And so now we have a new sports director for Owens, Eliza Levine, who is on the call. And so Eliza is the new sports director at Owens, and I'm excited to have her out there, and I know she's excited to get going out there. Since this is her first season of soccer, I will be kind of guiding this meeting a little bit so she can kind of listen and take questions from you guys. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and then we can reach out and help you with those. If you are a brand new coach or you're looking to coach, this meeting is for you. If you have coached in the past, and I'm looking at a couple of names here that I recognize, if you have coached for us in the past for a couple of seasons, you probably do not need to be on this call. This is going to be super basic and just trying to help those who have not coached before. But if you're a returner, you probably do not need to be on this call. And we'll have a more in-depth full coaches meeting for all returning coaches next Monday at 7:00. But this one's more for just new coaches or those interested in coaching. So we'll go ahead and get started. Like I said, if you have any questions, all you need to do is pop in the chat and type that question. It doesn't matter what time during the meeting, just pop that question in and we'll do our best to answer it. All right, we'll get started. YMCA coaching and kind of what the expectation of a coach is. That's typically the best place to start. That's where we get the most questions. What's the expectation of a coach, especially if it's your first time or you're just interested in coaching? A coach for the YMCA, you're committing to essentially an hour a week for practice, an hour for a game, or if it's a 3 to 5 year old team, you're committing to 1 hour Saturday for 8 Saturdays. Those practices for the 6-year-olds and up are one night a week for 1 hour, typically 5:30 or 6:30, Monday through Friday. For the 3 to 5 year olds, they are only going to meet on Saturdays starting August 19th. They'll meet for 1 hour. So the 3 year olds will meet first, and then the 4 to 5s will meet either at 10 o'clock 10 o'clock or 11:15. So you're committed to that 1 hour Saturday. Older teams will have one practice a week and then one game on Saturday. For the 3 to 5 year olds, they practice that first Saturday, so the 19th, they'll practice. And then every Saturday after that, they will practice for the first 15, 20 minutes and then play a scrimmage against another team for the next 40 minutes. All of our 3 to 5 year olds are coaches led. So the games and the scrimmages are all coaches led. There's not referees. We don't referee until the 6 up, and then we'll have referees on those games. So what a coach, as far as the back end and what a coach does, if you put down on your registration that you're interested in coaching, then you would be assigned to a team. And typically, if you know people or people requested you, we're going to assign them to your team. If you signed up and we see that on your child's registration, we're going to put you with your child. So that's a lot of times where coaches have questions. But yes, if you volunteer to coach, you're going to coach your child's team. We will, if you did not sign up on your registration, but now are interested in helping coach, then you would just need to reach out to Eliza so that she can get you set up, get you that information, and get you set up on a team. So the biggest thing with being a coach of the Y that often gets misunderstood is your knowledge of soccer. A lot of parents come in, thinking they need to have played soccer at a higher level or know how to coach the game. But realistically, as a recreational league where majority of our kids are brand new to the sport, and this is kind of their first time playing it, coaches for the YMCA, it's more important that you have an interest in working with kids and making that experience great and fun than knowing how to teach specific skills in the sport. We will have practice plans that are available to you. There are tons of videos on the internet and things to learn how to teach different skills in soccer. But more importantly for us, our coaches are promoting fun. They're promoting equality among the players and equal playing time. And they're focused more on the sportsmanship aspect versus the skill aspect. That's our most important keys out of coaches. The skills part we can get to, the practice plans we can help with, but how we work with those kids and making it fun, that's more important. And that's the most important aspect of a coach at the YMCA. We do utilize player space with communication. So that's where a lot of our questions come from. The YMCA actually communicates the vast majority. Coaches go the entire season without actually communicating specifically with their team because the YMCA will send them their practices, their game schedules, if we have cancellations. So you're not on the hook for that. If you wake up Saturday morning, you see rain Parents will get all that information from us. They're not going to be dependent upon you to get them that information. We want to take as much of that out of your hands as possible so that you're not worried about sending out communications at the last minute. So we try to help with that as much as possible. The game schedules and all of that, like I said, will be on Player Space. You will get a link from Eliza, and if you haven't gotten that yet, if you want to reach out to her, but you will get a link from her that will let you sign up into Player Space as a coach. So you may have a Player Space account right now that shows you as a parent, and so you probably, if you played with us before, or if this is your first year, you're going to get that Player Space account, and that'll be your parent account where you'll see your child, your player, but you'll have a separate account that'll be your coach account, and so that'll be what the link is, and I'll set you up as a coach, and it'll be a little bit different. So if you haven't gotten that link, feel free to reach out to Eliza. I'm going to very quickly, while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to put your email address in the chat. So that they know who to email. So the FAQs that I want to go over quickly from what I get from coaches and what I see a lot when new coaches ask questions: equipment, what do you need? We strive to provide as much as possible: soccer balls, cones. We just feasibly can't provide practice pennies and keep them clean during the season, but cones, soccer balls, and your field is going to be provided by the Y. When you show up to practice, whether it's 3 to 5s or 6 to 7s or 8 to 9s, you're going to have at least one goal. For most of our older kids, you're going to have a full field with 2 goals. For the 3 to 5s, you get a goal on a field, and you'll practice and scrimmage for that other team. But we will have soccer balls, cones provided, so you don't need to bring in any equipment, outside equipment. The players will get a jersey and socks from us, so we will hand that to you as coaches before the season starts. So before your first game, typically the week of your first game, we will get those in, and you'll get a jersey packet that will have all your team's jerseys and all of your team's socks. They will just need to supply cleats and shin guards. That's for all levels. Coaches, you'll also get shirts. So just check with your directors. Every site's a little bit different how they give those out, but you will have a shirt that matches the color of your team's jersey colors. For practices, it is 1 day a week, and it is on site. So we don't allow teams to practice off site for various liability issues, insurance issues. All team practices have to be at Owens Field, and that 1 time a week for an hour. At the end of the season, all teams will receive a medal. Every child will receive a medal. So coaches, you'll get those at the end of the season. You'll receive a medal packet that you'll be able to hand out to those players at the end of the season. Assistant coaches and getting help from parents. So at all levels, more specifically at the 3 to 5s, we see a lot of parent involvement, but at all levels, it's often simple for parents to find other parents to help them. So don't feel like you have to do it alone. A lot of teams create a community of multiple coaches that will help. If you need to be away, we understand everybody has things to do. Everybody is busy, and it's a commitment from every parent to be here this season and to have their kid in the sport. But we recognize sometimes coaches need to be away for a season, for a week, and those parents and assistant coaches can step in and help to lead those practices and lead those games while that coach is away. So when you get your roster and you're able to communicate to your team, you can reach out before the season and communicate saying, I need help. Is anybody interested in being an assistant coach? Or when you first meet, again, a lot of times when you first meet, that community gets together and you'll find parents that are willing to help throughout that season. The other thing that real quick that we're going to go over, but I'm going to pause before we get right into it, is the rules. We'll do a quick overview of the new rule book and talk about what that looks like for each age group. And then we'll go into just a Q&A time. Again, this meeting is not meant to be long. It's meant to be more of you ask questions, anything you want to know, and get to meet Eliza as the new director, so that you have a first step if you're new here. And then when we go into the full coaches meeting next week, we'll go a little bit more in depth on what the season looks like. But if you have any questions, like I said, put those in the chat at any time, and we'll try to answer those. And then we'll have a specific time for it at the end too. I'm going to pull up the rule book real quick. All right, we're going to jump right in. So you'll get this rule book and you'll be able to read through it, but I'm going to go very quickly through some certain points that we'll hit on, and then you'll be able to go more in depth. For the team duties, you're going to have a bench, a sideline, and we just ask that coaches and parents help us keep that sideline clean and pick up. Let's not do that. Help clean up their sideline. Coaches and players will occupy one sideline. and then parents will occupy another sideline. Where this is not true is the 3 to 5 year olds. The 3 to 5 year olds is going to be a little bit of organized chaos, and just keep kids inside the white lines and try not to have them, run into the airport. That's our main goal for the 3 to 5 year olds. So that won't be as strict. But for our 6 to 7s and up, teams will occupy the same sideline and parents will sit on the opposite sideline. That is technically a new rule for us this year, and something we're going to try to help with seating. We do ask that we limit to 3 coaches on the sideline for the older groups. Again, the 3 to 7s is organized chaos. It can look as it needs to for the benefit of those kids. But the 6, 7s and up, we would ask that only 3 coaches on the sideline. In the 3 to 7s, we do allow coaches on the field to, again, assist, facilitate those games, help those kids learn. But then once we get above 8-year-olds and up, then we would not allow coaches on the field, and they would stay on their sideline area. We do not keep official game scores or records. We do not allow unsportsmanlike conduct for players or coaches or spectators. Spectators are the responsibility of the coach. And so if they are not conducting themselves how they need to, we are going to go to the coach. We are going to ask that you work with us with as parents, and then if we need to, we'll eject parents as needed. If a team is a player short, we will play the game. We will start the game, and then both teams would play down to that level. So if you play in the 6 to 7-year-old division and you play 7-on-7, and one team only has 6 at the start, we would play 6-on-6. If a team only has 5, for example, and the game is supposed to start, that game would be a forfeit, and we would just pull players from both teams to make a scrimmage and have them play. We don't want to miss games. We'll play those games, but it would be considered a forfeit, technically. You can see this breakdown of how many players are on the field. So 3 to 4 5s, like I said, would not have referees. This would be coach facilitated. And then 6 to 7s and up would have a referee, 2 referees for the 10, 11s and up. But you can see how many players are on the field. If they have goalies and the size soccer ball they will use. And again, we'll have soccer balls available for practices. Like I said, I won't be hitting on all the rules, but the mercy rule for us, if you're up by 5 or more goals, the other team cannot press. If they're up by 5 more goals, they can't press. And if they're up by 6 or more goals, then you would start to add players on as the losing team, so that you could, again, kind of a reverse mercy rule in a sense that they're not taking players off, you're adding players on. We are adding build-up lines onto the field this year, so they'll be painted essentially halfway on the field each way, so that it prevents the other team. They have to back up on goal kicks from goalie possession just to prevent that pressure up the field. So we will have build-out lines this year. And then for throw-ins, for our 3 to 5-year-olds, they're just going to put the ball down and kick it and go. We're not worried about a specific throw-in. Our 6 and 9-year-olds, if they mess up, we'll get a redo. And then our 10 to 11s, if they mess up, it would just be a turnover and the other team would get possession. No headers for that younger 3 to 9-year-old groups. And then our 10, 11s plus could head the ball. No slide tackling in any age group. I won't go over all the specific offsides, offsides or fouls. Handballs for the 3 to 5-year-olds. It doesn't matter. We're not really going to call it. We're going to try to play as much as possible. 6 to 7s, as long as it's unintentional. Again, we want to play on as much as possible and keep the ball moving, keep them playing. And then our 8 to 15s is where we'll start to call more of if their arms are out, if they're making themselves bigger, if there's intent, then we'll start to call those handballs more in that 8+ division. For their uniform, they will need their jersey from the YMCA and their shin guards underneath their socks. If they're not wearing shin guards, we will still allow them to play. Technically, we don't want to tell parents that. We want parents to know that they need to wear shin guards or else. But we are going to allow kids to play. And then we just need to get shin guards for the next week. And then substitutions. So for the 3 to 5-year-olds, you're going to substitute free. I mean, you're going to get kids in and out, and it's up to the coaches when you want to sub and just making sure those kids are playing. The 6 to 7s and 8 to 9s, the referees will stop the game every 5 minutes and intentionally call for subs so that we can get those players in. The 10 to 15s, you'll free sub. You'll sub whenever we could normally sub. So a little bit different for each age group. So that's the very, very fast rundown of the basics of the rules. Like I said, you'll get this rule book. But when we did this meeting for the Jeep Rogers YMCA, it took us about the same amount of time, and then we just took time for questions. And so that's what we're going to do now. Any questions you have, put them in the chat, anything you want to ask, and then we'll go. Yeah, that's the best way to play it. If there is a header in an 8 to 9-year-old division, it's going to be an indirect free kick to the opposite team. So Chelsea, that is something I'm going to direct to Eliza, and how that team is set up. I will tell you that. Give me 1 second. Let me do something real quick. Let's do that. Yes. All right, that might help. So there are times where a 3 to 5 year old team may have more players than 10. We work to limit to 10 so that every child can play. However, we recognize that some groups come in and they're large groups and they may want to bring 12. We really don't go above 12 ever, but 12, we have seen 12 player teams before. That is more up to the discretion of the director. So
Yeah, so kind of the way that I'm doing it is based on requests. So the same thing, if it's more than 12, then I will send you an email and kind of see if there's, look at the roster and see if we can do something about that. But it's really the same with every division. If you do have more kids, if it's the 15 request and you've got 16 that want to do it, I want to try and get as many kids that want to play as we can. So it's definitely a little bit of wiggle room, and we're kind of able to adjust that if we need to.
So, Christian, it's whatever nights you put down when you registered, you put down nights that didn't work for you. And so when we go in and make rosters, we're using that information plus the information that the parents that are on your team put to come up with a practice day. And so that's going to be, we're going to build that team around, okay, everybody on this team they can't do Wednesday night. We're going to put you on Wednesday night, but we might put you on Monday or Tuesday night, whichever when we make rosters, we know where we have practice fields. And so you might get put wherever we need to put you, just depending on what you can't do.
Yeah. And I will say I have had a couple that have requested times. If you do have a couple dates or a couple times that'll work better for you, just email me and I'll do my best. And it's definitely a little bit easier for me to read an email request rather than going through the player space. So if you have, that you can do like Mondays and Wednesdays or something, feel free to email me. That might be a little bit easier.
I would highly recommend attending the full coaches meeting next Monday, just because we'll do a deeper dive of the rule book. We'll do a little deeper dive of the schedule, because that's information we want all coaches to know. This is again geared more towards the very basics and answering all your questions so that you get to ask questions in an environment where you don't have 100 other coaches that have all coached before sitting in a meeting room and there's that anxiety or that fear of asking a question. We really wanted this to be very low key, a smaller group of people, and then you feel free to answer as many or ask as many questions as possible. The Monday meeting will be a little more advanced, and I would recommend all coaches attend.
A random note as well, just for equipment. We do have extra equipment. So if you end up having any kids that on your team that might need help with shin guards, I know that we do have a couple cleats as well, soccer balls, anything like that, just let us know, because we do have extras, because we want to make sure that every kid is provided with the same amount of equipment.
Chris, it's not required. We do record our coaches meetings, and then we'll be able to send that out to you. So if you don't make it, we will be able to send you a recording of that. So you can see it afterwards. It's the benefit of doing Zoom meetings versus in persons, is we do get to record. And then Christian, I know when we send stuff out, because we have that hard copy, I'm sure Eliza will send that out. But if you go to our website now, and you go to programs, sports, soccer, it's actually there on our website. So you can access it anytime, parents can access it anytime. So if you're ever not sure, just go to our website, go to soccer, and it's actually there on that page so that everybody can see it and parents can see it. But then we can also send that out to our coaches. Any other questions? So here's what we did in our in my last call that I was just on for our Jeep Rogers branch. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop recording. Okay, I'll hold on that. So communication outside of games and practices, there's really not anything required, because the main tenets of communication are going to be, when are you practicing? Well, parents will get that all before the season. Is practice canceled? Again, if it's a weather delay or weather cancellation, they will get that from the Y regardless. They will get that from us through player space. And then what their game schedule is, they'll get that through player space. And is the game canceled? They'll get that through player space. So the only real thing that you may communicate is parents telling you they're not going to be there. And then that's a case where when you first meet for that first practice, a lot of times parents will get a group chat, a group text or something together, and they may communicate, hey, I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to be there this Saturday. But realistically, as far as, league communication, it's probably all going to come from us. Unless, again, like I said, you cancel a practice, then you would need to let Eliza know and she can try to cancel it. But the best way there is to have that text line or that group chat to be able to quickly, text and say, hey, I can't make it tonight. Is there any other parent that can help? Or hey, we're not practicing tonight. We have 8 kids out of town. But aside from that, everything else is really going to come through the app.
Yeah, and with that, once you complete that background check and those training videos, you get assigned on player space to each team. So from there, you'll be able to see the rosters and the point of contact for each kid, and the parents will be able to see that for you as well. So if you either wanted to do that directly on player space or just grab that communication and then kind of reach out and create something, that's totally up to you. Rosters should be out by the end of this week. I am mostly done with what we have now. We do still have late registration open, so I'm just waiting for the rest of those to kind of filter through and we finalize teams. But a good portion is done and it should be finished by the end of the week.
All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to